war, AIDS, 9/11. These words trigger an emotional response. This response is a signal reaction. Now, two types of signal reaction: connotation and denotation. Connotation is a personal meaning to each individual. Osgood determined there's three dimensions to connotation. One is evaluate. Is it good or is it bad? Two, determine its potency. How strong is it? Or how weak is it? And three, determine its activity. Is it still active or is it passive? Now, while connotation is a personal meaning, denotation is a shared meaning. Denotation is being shared usually by a speech community where their definitions have been made on these words. Their words are typically found in a dictionary, but not always. But it is a shared meaning throughout the group. Now, to combat your emotional reactions, you want to use a semantic reaction. Semantic reaction is actually taking a pause and thinking out how these words are being used and what kind of context they're being used in. You want to ask yourself, what do you mean? Why are you saying that? And then that allows you to think and process what is actually being said or what words are being used. Now, I picked a scene that appears around 1 hour and 16 minutes into the film. It's where Pseudolus and Captain Glorioso are having the conversation while the funeral is going on. Pseudolus finally comes out and says that the young virgin has passed away due to a plague. Now, immediately following that word, all hell broke loose. Everybody's running in a frantic. Everybody's panic, frightened, scared, urgency just to get away because of that word plague and how deadly it meant back in those days. So you could tell by using just a single word, you can get a signal reaction out of an entire group. The other thing I want to touch on is facial expression. And I want to use the same scene because I believe using strong facial expressions can emphasize and create an even stronger signal reaction out of a word. And Pseudolus does this perfectly using the same word plague. He immediately responds with a frightened look and an urgent look that says, get away, and everybody starts going crazy. And it's just the way he can move his face around where you get the feeling that, yeah, this is something important and we need to get moving. I believe we use facial expressions daily, and we may not know or we may not even pay attention to, but I believe it is important for our everyday communication with each individual we meet. You know, you could tell a lot by how someone is feeling or how their day is going just by looking at their face. For examples of the greats, I came up with Jim Carrey, and one of my all-time favorites is Dumb and Dumber. This guy is just a master of his art, and that is involved in facial expressions. Another guy is Robin Williams, is genius, and Rodney Dangerfield, Caddyshack. I mean, come on, that is an all-time great as well. But these guys have mastered their craft in facial expression and used it to comedy and have done very well. And you can tell that it is an art because of the effort and work that these guys have put into it. And I can see that in just about every single scene in this movie. The use of facial expressions is so very important to making this film. To conclude, I just, as I've done this project, I have actually paid closer attention to these specific words where I would get a signal reaction, where I would have an emotional response to that specific word. And I have started to just take, a step back and actually process how these words are being used, whether they're derogatory or not. But understand the context that they're being used in, and that helps me to calm down if I'm getting in a rage, or understand where that individual would be coming from. And facial expressions, I've been having fun with coworkers at work. I have been walking around with a sad face on my and they'd ask me, well, what's wrong? I said, nothing, I'm happy. And it just throws them off. And you could play around with that. It's quite interesting seeing their reaction as to how you look, but you actually feel. Appreciate you taking time listening. I hope you learned something. Thank you.